I'm here in North Dorset to talk to Janie Hamilton about a tragedy which unfolded around her family. It's a very moving story, and it's one that everybody should take note of. Janie, thank you ever so much for seeing me today. You know about my passion in order to address illegal gateway drugs and what's needed in Dorset. Um, I'm really grateful that you want to tell your story and what happened to you and your family.
Well, it's my passion too, the fight against cannabis. Cannabis makes me really angry because it stole my son's life. It stole his life 3 times over because, well, that's what I think, because it stole uh, his brain. Then it stole his capacity to make a right-minded decision when he got um, testicular cancer, which there are links with cannabis to testicular cancer. And then it stole just his potential. So he started smoking cannabis unbeknown to us when he was 14. We lived at a boarding school in Surrey, leafy Surrey. I was not thinking about cannabis in those days or drugs. It was 31 years ago. It wasn't on my radar. We lived in a very nice area, but there was cannabis around. And James had, he was a thrill seeker. And so he enjoyed experimenting, but I didn't know because I'd never had a teenager before. I'd never taken drugs myself. I didn't realize that the symptoms that he was exhibiting, I thought they were normal teenage
Teenage.
behavior. And I just thought how unpleasant, how arrogant. I didn't realize because I'd never done drugs myself. I would know now. And so this carried on. And by the age of 20, he developed schizophrenia
All right.
with very, very bizarre happenings in our household, with my husband, head of department, needing his sleep. Uh, James, by that time, staying in his bedroom all day long and just coming out when we'd gone to sleep, coming out of his bedroom at 11:30 at night to midnight, turning all the lights on, going down to the kitchen, turning the grill on, showering at midnight. And so I would say, James, could you do this earlier, please? We're trying to get to sleep, but it was like talking to a brick wall. And finally, my husband had to go and sleep in his art shed, which was insulated and warm. It wasn't as awful, but it was wrong that he had to go out because we couldn't live,
So
function.
in effect, he was sleeping outside.
Yes. So in the end, we decided that was wrong, and
Yeah.
James had to go outside. My husband came back in.
Okay.
But his behavior became so bizarre with him turning in circles. He only lasted 1 term at university. His
Okay.
brain was shot to pieces, really. And he took a number of jobs. And he came home one day on his last job, turning in circles. He'd been working on a building site and said he'd spent all his wages on cannabis. And he was turning around saying, I'm free,
Oh
turning
dear.
round and round all evening in the shed. I kept popping out to see, and he was spinning on a round and round on the spot. So the doctor came next day and said he's very ill, and he was sectioned immediately.
Right.
So he spent the next 16 years of his life in and out of mental hospitals, sometimes in rehab, sometimes living independently, with living in a house with other people, able to work a bit for periods, but then he would always come off his medication, and we were back to square one.
And
And
was there a particular reason he came off his medication each time?
well, there was one, the gold star medication for schizophrenia is Clozaril, and he said it gave him a false appetite, a false sleep, and a false personality. He knew what was happening to him, so he would come off it, and we always knew when he was coming off it because he would shave his head, shave his eyebrows. He just started doing bizarre things, and we knew he was ill, and we couldn't do anything about it until he did something bizarre enough for the police to become involved, and then he would be resectioned. And this was the pattern that went on until finally he discovered a lump in his testicle and wouldn't have anyone examine him. I forgot all about it for some strange reason, and we retired down here, and in the end it was discovered that he had testicular cancer, and his consultant was shouting at him and screaming at him, saying, "You will die a horrible death. You need treatment, life-saving treatment." But he had a psychotic refusal to accept life-saving treatment because that was what the schizophrenia from the cannabis did to him. He did not have to die. We lost our son to cannabis 3
Right.
times over. And so he's actually buried 5 fields away in line with this cottage. But yes, his life was cut short needlessly. There was a court case in London. They said if he'd hurt his leg or something, they could have sedated him and chopped off the leg, but because they needed cooperation
They,
with chemotherapy, they couldn't
they couldn't do
enforce it.
anything.
And so everybody's, they said, the judge said everyone was very sad. And so we just had to watch him die. So,
That's terrible.
mm.
So what do you feel we should do as a society about the issue of cannabis?
We need to crack down on it. This liberal approach, if anyone wants to do their homework, is clearly not working. And I just feel that people just sort of shrug their shoulders, thinking it's too massive an issue to deal with. But it isn't, as is clear from your vision, your courage, your determination. Things are changing, and if everybody did that, we could stamp on this stuff. It is derailing young people's lives. People don't realize how dangerous it is. And I have always maintained that cannabis is everybody's problem. It's just that they don't realize it yet. If you think about the problem in West Sussex village about 2 weeks ago, that was out of control,
Yeah,
youngsters rioting, that was cannabis. And then people are puzzled as to what's going on in our communities. The root is often cannabis.
yeah. Well, I obviously agree about this. From the point of view of what we need to do, I think it's clear. I think it's absolutely clear. We need 3 things. We need tough enforcement on the dealers. We need effective treatment because cannabis is the top drug for young people when you look at who's in treatment. But most importantly, we need impactful prevention, which we're not doing at the moment. We are not talking about the harm this genetic toxin does to the individuals and the communities, which is what we see all the time.